Welcome, everyone, to Pure Presence Book Club, Rupert Spira's book, The Nature of Consciousness. My name is Bill Free, and I'm your host, and I have a guest on the show this week. You guys know her as Annika. And Annika, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Hello, everybody. Hello, Bill.
Good, good. Can everyone hear Annika okay? Can I get a heads up on that? Just want to make sure that my equipment is working properly. Can you hear Annika, you guys on the viewing audience?
Could could you hear me?
Henrik, hello. Yes, okay. Everyone can hear you. Good, good. So that
Great.
that feature is working just fine, and
Yeah.
I am so happy, Annika. I would say I'm sorry that the we didn't test the equipment, but this is just exactly what it's supposed to be right here because this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And there will be other opportunities. We'll just check the equipment next time because I'd love to have you back on the show again so everybody can get to see your
Great.
beautiful
Yes. It'll take
expression.
some time. Now I was a bit nervous, running around with several
Yes,
devices.
yes. We're just now starting. Thomas, are you hearing my voice? Thomas Dibble, can you hear my voice? Welcome everyone to Pure Presence Book Club, and I was away for 9 days, as most of you know. I was at the Byron Katie School for the Work out in California, and what an amazing experience that was to be with Byron Katie and with all the beings that were attending her School for the Work. It was really quite, uh, I would say, eye opening, and it was the most investigative kind of inquiry that I have ever been involved in. It was very, very current with Thomas. It has started. Maybe you should reconnect. Okay, thank you, Myra. I appreciate you commenting on that. So the Byron Katie uh, event is over, and I'm back to my home and my studio here in Elliott, Maine, and we're on the nature of consciousness. We're on chapter 5, and this, in my mind, this is where this book really gets good, you guys, because this is like uh, Rupert describes these next 4 chapters as the process of where the nature of consciousness is explored and revealed. And revealed is the key word in my mind here because, as we come into this understanding of the direct path, the non dual teachings of Rupert, which go back, his accumulation of understanding and just really self inquiry to self realization goes back 30 years and many teachers, as you all know. And this book, The Nature of Consciousness, is just so rich. The next 4 chapters are going to unfold for us the rich content and the understanding and Rupert's careful discovery and then presentation of this material in a way that we can all understand it. I know that for myself, when I open up a page, I sit with the page and probably I'll read the same paragraph 4 or 5 times uh, before moving on to the next one. Often, not always, but often, I'll sit with the same paragraph for a long period of time, and I really feel that um, for me, I like a multiplicity. I like a multiple of different ideas that are coming in uh, and the remembering occurs from really knowing the truth when my when it resonates, it has that intuitive knowing. Oh yeah, this is true. And yeah, that's true. And I get it from A Course in Miracles. I get it from Rupert. I get it from Byron Katie. I get it from the teachings of the Maharaj, Ramana, the great freedom out there that's a non-spiritual, non-religious, non-duality teaching out in California. And also, I think she's up in the Netherlands, up in Sweden, etc. And I just like all of these things, but I have to say, you guys, for me, the direct path has opened up the direct experience that all of these traditions, I feel, point to, including Rupert and including Muji and other great teachers that are available today. And before I go any further, and I just want to say, Annika, welcome as our guest to the show today, and I look forward to hearing your comments and your intake on the content of Chapter 5. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, first of all, I would like to express that I feel the same like you, that many teachers have contributed to pointing to the truth and finding out. But with some of them, I stayed kind of dependent, like awaiting for grace to descend or something like that. And with Rupert, it became available to find out for myself. And I find that that is the most important and the most wonderful, because he describes it in such a way that I really can find out and check. So I don't have to believe what someone says, but I can know for myself. And sometimes it's just glimpses, and then all of a sudden I'm exploring deeper and finding out, and then it becomes my own direct experience. And by saying my own, I'm pointing to the fact that life, awareness arises as this Annika being, and through her and with her and in her, there is this deepening and widening of the realization of what I really am as awareness, as aware being. And these chapters that describe that direct path, the direct experience, that is such a relief, because in any moment, at any time, in any event or situation, I can ask the question, am I aware? And I can explore in many ways. Sometimes I go for a walk, and then I stand still, and then I walk backwards, I turn around, and I'm still here. Awareness, am always present. And then there is other explorations that I go into the body, and I sit there and I sense it, and the body is unlimited. It's also the direct experience of what I am. So I love Rupert. I can say that. I mean, I love the teachers that point us to truth, but Rupert has made this available to make the shift from thinking I am this limited being to more and more often knowing I am this. I am that I am. So I'm very passionate about it. And this chapter 5, in short, it says that the mind and knowledge are made of consciousness. And consciousness, you could say, arises as a mind, and through that as knowing objects. But only consciousness has access to itself. Only awareness can know itself. And he also says that everyone can recognize this, but it is consciousness alone that knows, since the knowing by the mind is also through the lens of its own activity. So he keeps on saying and saying, only awareness is being aware. Only consciousness knows itself. So I have some highlights through the chapters, but this is in short what he says and what he helps us discover for ourselves. And to know and to confirm and to acknowledge and to know beyond doubt that when we say I, it refers to I awareness and no longer to the idea of and the habitual idea of thinking I'm limited to the body and I'm a separate entity.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Annika. That's you sound very present and very clear in your understanding, and it totally matches up with my own, and like you, I Rupert is just like, the thing I love about Rupert is that he presents the clearest understanding of this idea of these
Yeah.
of the truth of, and also not just the truth like, oh, only Ramana gets it, or only Maharaj, or only Rupert gets it, or
Yeah.
only Muji gets it, but Rupert presents it in such a humble way and also a concise way where you really do get it. You really do understand that there's nothing there, that you are this experience of awareness at all times, and it's in the identification and knowing of it where you realize that it's always been there and it never leaves you.
Yeah, and not only that, that we are it. And that is when that becomes one's direct experience, because it's all about experience. It's not about knowing it or believing or the fantasies or whatsoever. No, it is the discovery that that is what I am. I am what sees life, and slowly I'm discovering I am life. I am arising as life, and I'm so unreal grateful for that. You know?
Yes, yes, yes. I know. I can feel it in your voice. My voice needs more volume. Okay, I can turn my voice up too. Is that better? I've given my voice some more volume. Is that better for you guys? Okay, thank you, Thomas and David. I can give it to. I have this great mixer board to my right here, and I'm able to turn the volume up pretty easily, and much better. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you.
And mine too. Is mine better too?
Yeah, I raised yours up too. I have controls here.
Okay.
I just don't want to blast people out. Uh,
I'm
yeah.
so enthusiastic, I could easily deafen you.
Yes. Well, the highlights that I have for this, you know
Yeah.
what? But before I get into the highlights, what I'd like to do, if you all don't mind, I would like to just get quiet just for a few minutes with just before we get into. I know that we've both been talking, and we're already 15 minutes into the show, and the way I'd like to have the show this week is that we'll have a short meditation, and then uh, we'll talk a little bit between us again, Annika, and then we'll open it up for questions. And you guys that are calling in, you can raise your hand on the call-in feature, or you can write a question on the chat board if you're viewing. And it looks like we have about 40 people on the viewing side this week, and we have five people in the 4 people in the call-in feature. It's really funny. The call-in feature, I guess it's because it dropped off for 2 weeks that the call-in feature isn't as populated this time, but we have lots of you guys on the viewing side. Thank you all for joining with us. And if you'll just join with me right now, just for, if you're not driving, just I want to just get quiet in the presence of being aware. And awareness is just aware. What is it that is aware of this experience is a good entry. And just being aware of presence and just allowing awareness to be present in the quiet. It's so comforting to know that we are the truth, that we are the light, and that peace abides as us. We are the peace of God. We are the presence of God. Eternal beings. And awareness is our natural state. This is where love is. Joy is here. Divine flow. We acknowledge the being right now, this I that's really just pure presence, pure awareness. And it's in gratitude that we share this experience with all of you. And so it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I just love to come into this quiet place of a gentle recognition of the truth and bring it down just a little bit to have to allow really the acknowledgement of being to encompass and pervade the experience right now. Yes, I can remind you, Rosalind, to how to call it in. Actually, if you, Rosalind, Rosalind has a question on the board here for you guys that are calling in that she's asking how to call in. The email that you received just 15 minutes before the hour has the call in features on it. And it's very simple to call in, and you can find it there. There was also one that was sent out last night about 9 p.m. that has all the call-in information on it. Rosalind, thank you for the question. And I'm grateful for Kimberly reminding me last week when I was in at the Byron Katie to she invited me to have that meditation experience. There's nothing in my experience, and I'm sure that you'll agree with this. Everyone will probably agree with this. There's nothing in our experience that gets us directly into the experience of truth closer or more intimate than that time of meditation. It's just it's just beautiful. Would you agree with that, Annika?
Well, I have to say that it is just as if it's with the speed of light nowadays. So I only have to remember to see into if I'm aware right now and if I am this already, and wham, it's there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't have to sit as long as anymore, and not to be arrogant or whatsoever, but it's as if it's more and more present, the remembrance of it.
Yeah.
And then one becomes quiet and still only even through that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's true. It's kind of surprised me. It caught me by surprise. Yeah, different people like David Spector says different people like different pointings to get there. Yes, we all have a different
Yeah.
sort of an anchor, sort of a point of reference, and it's true. I often you'll see me. I don't know why when this hand goes on the heart right here, and somehow it brings me into a remembering of identity, and
Yeah.
I'm instantly, it's like a on demand. It's quicker than the clicker on your TV set. You're just there. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember what I
Yeah.
am now, because I don't know, it's that instant moment of shifting from the mind engagement. It's sort of it I don't know what it does. Maybe it disengages the mind or something, but it takes me from the horizontal plane of reference of time references to a vertical experience of out of
Yeah.
time. Yeah. And
Yeah. It's a stopping. It's a sort of a stopping.
yes.
As soon as the hand goes on the heart, it's a reminder. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, be still. I'm here.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's miraculous actually. It's almost
Yeah.
it's almost like a miracle, but it's not. It's what we all have available. And the thing I love about what Rupert was saying in this chapter
Mhm.
was, oh, uh, I'm just going to cover a couple of the highlights that I had for this chapter. Uh,
Mhm.
one of the things that Rupert says is that all experience is subjective, right? All experience it is subjective, and when you have that understanding, it's like a quick sort of a checkpoint where you can say, okay, wait a minute. If it's involving time and space, if it's involving objective anything, then it's it's um, it's of the mind. It's not really the awareness. Awareness doesn't have an objective experience. Awareness is aware of all objective experiences. That was one of the high points that I really like his third paragraph on the first page of chapter 5, where he says that the reason that the well, I'll just read what he says here. He says using the all that is or ever or could ever be known of the physical and natural world are sensations and perceptions. This is where science is, pretty much, not completely, but pretty much. And he says, and and of the human mind and its functions, all that is or could ever be known of the physical and natural world are sensations and perceptions, and of the human mind and its functions, thoughts, images, and feelings. In other words, all that is or could ever be known of the physical world and the human mind is experience. That's the human condition. And all experience takes place in consciousness. Therefore, using the same rigor and honesty by which science is defined, the disciplines of science and psychology could be redefined as the study of the contents of consciousness and in as the study of the contents of consciousness. In neither case is consciousness itself studied. And that's what's amazing to me is when I read something like that, I go, wow, so we think everything we know is based on being a human. We think everything we know, and everything we know is based on objective reality. And what Rupert says in his book, yeah, the study of the effect. And what Rupert says in his book is it's kind of like the wave uh, defining the ocean as itself. It's like the wave defining the ocean as itself. And that's just that means that all of the ocean is just a wave. And so I think that's really amazing that science is that closed-minded. And then the other thing that he says in this, he says that uh, because scientists and psychologists, along with the majority of humanity, have limited their interest and observation to the study of objective experience, thereby overlooking and, in some extreme cases, altogether denying the subjective experience of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's why we can't, that's why we're always seeking and never finding, because it's right here where we are. It's right here, the awareness of the experience. We're looking at the experience to tell us what we are instead of the knowing of what we are by identifying ourselves as aware of what we are. It's kind of a tricky thing. A lot of people can't have trouble getting there, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So I have, if anyone, we have a couple of hands up. I'm going to take the hand from Bellevue. I'm going to release the mic in just a minute. And if you guys on the video side have any questions or any comments that you would like to add for this chapter, go ahead and type your comment on the chat side of things. And I'm going to release the mic for, looks like someone from Washington. The mic is all yours. Hello? Are you there?
New York retreat. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, 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 yes. Who is this?
Okay. Rosalind.
Hi, Rosalind.
Rourke.
Yes. Hi, Rosalind. Welcome.
Hi. So, thank you. I feel a bit foggy about the sentence on, it's in the paragraph in the second to the last on page 49 in this chapter. Because you know how often Rupert says that we can know awareness through our experience. And whenever people have questions, he brings them out of their heads and out of their minds into what is their experience.
Yeah.
And so the fogginess comes around these sentences.
Where is it, Rosalind?
To say, on page 49,
Okay.
second to the last paragraph. It starts with to say that consciousness is equally available to all people suggests that people are aware of or have access to consciousness.
Yes.
That is just a manner of speaking. And here's the sentence. Only consciousness knows and therefore has access to itself. So you may have already helped me with this by saying we can know awareness but we can't actually know consciousness. Is that how you understand it? And what about the next sentence that says, sometimes consciousness colors itself in the form of the mind and seems as a result to become finite and temporary.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that our minds that have all that craziness is also consciousness?
I have an answer for that, but I'm gonna ask Annika to first
Okay.
reply to that. Thank you for the
Well,
question. This is a
as
great paragraph.
how I understand it and have found out of my own experience is that Rupert uses consciousness and awareness as two words for the very same experience of being aware.
Mm-hmm.
So when he says only consciousness knows and has access to itself, because mind and the world, you could say awareness arises as a mind, and from that mind a world steps forth, so to say. So the mind and all the knowledge and the world and the body are made of consciousness. But the beautiful thing is through Rupert, and that just evolves by itself, we can find out that that is true. So, for
How
instance,
can I
when there
know
is
that consciousness colors itself through my experience?
Well,
how can I know?
Because
coloring,
when we go to experience, like for instance a feeling or a thought
Mm-hmm.
or the body, and we sit with that, really contemplating what it's made of experientially, we only find awareness, and that is something that comes through exploration, and then you find like the mind is made of awareness. I mean, it's just a bundle of thoughts arising, but when we stick with the thoughts and really sit with them and explore what are they made of and to whom do they come, you only experientially find consciousness, aware being.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you very much. Bill, did you want to say something else?
Wait, I do. I love what Annika just expressed, and I thought it was very clear. And also on the chat board, you can see that several people mentioned that awareness and consciousness are the same, and that's what Rupert says in his material also. And also, I like what David Spector said, that for some others like Muji, consciousness is limited wakefulness, and so the definition of consciousness is different with different traditions and different teachers. That's why I feel Rupert goes he goes pretty specific. He's very clear on what his definitions are of consciousness and awareness, and it's the same. And he also talks about, I think it was it might have been in the first or second chapter. He talks about awareness, or it's the second chapter, I think. And he goes further into it in his newest book called Being Aware of Being Aware. I'm showing it to the viewers on the video screen right now. There's what I used to call local awareness, where the person thinks that it's aware of experience, but it's a local awareness. What I call local awareness is objective reality. It's an awareness of objects, and I think that's what more what panpsychism is that Kimberly and I talked about. But on this particular paragraph that Rosalind, that you're talking about here, the investigation that Annika is suggesting I think is the most simple way to discover any question, especially a question around awareness or consciousness or the coloring of awareness. uh, from the mind is the mind is always going to give us an objective experience. It's always going to be uh, noticed. It's always going to be uh, it's always going to be an observed experience. It's going to be awareness is always going to be aware of the coloring of itself as the mind uh, presents the senses, the feelings that we have. All of those things are coloring of awareness. It's as Annika said, it's an arising of the mind that is a coloring of the constancy of what we are in truth, which is this awareness experience. And the contemplation doesn't take questions. It takes a noticing. It takes a quiet noticing of from where does this experience arise? And when you ask that question, from where does this experience arise? Awareness is the only thing that can see it. Awareness is the only thing that can see the answer to the question, and it doesn't come in the form of words. It comes in a knowing of it.
Lovely. Thank you. It's beautiful, both of you.
You're welcome. Thank you for.
Bill, could I add something?
Of
Is
course.
that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just in short, the mind is, of course, not an entity, but it is learned words and names and memories and everything, like you said, in objective experience. But what Rupert explains so beautifully, it's the direct experience and the direct knowing of awareness, knowing itself. So then there is the neti-neti process. I'm not this, I'm not that. So first there is, I'm aware of being aware, and I am that. And then there is, I'm not the body, I'm not thoughts, I'm not the emotion. And once there is the recognition, as David writes, that it's always an immediate recognition that doesn't need seeking, it doesn't need exploring and so forth. But once we have recognized what we really are, and it's always present, and it's timeless and unlimited, after that, the deepening of that understanding, the exploration of that understanding, that goes on forever. There is no forever, but that deepens and widens. And then we discover, but I'm also, as awareness, awareness, am also the body. I'm also the thoughts. I'm also, and that goes on. And that's my own experience, that every time there is a new depth and it's wider. That's why he writes of Rumi in wider and wider rings of being. So it's not that being itself widens, it's not that being itself gets deeper, but the recognition, the remembrance, it's just like clouds in front of the sun, opening and opening and opening and revealing the sky and the sun that are already always there. So the recognition itself that I am awareness is immediate, right now. But the discovery, what it is made of and what it arises as, and in what and how, and that there is only awareness itself and that I am that is going by itself, so to say. It's not a doing, a seeking, but an unfolding, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for adding that, Annika. And that's one of the reasons I love having guests on the show and also guests in the chat room is because, I don't pretend to know all the details of this content. And Rupert and many of the beings that are in the book study club have been following Rupert for longer than me, and even the direct path longer than I have. I just have a strong hunger for it, a strong pull for the understanding, and then being able to express the truth in a way that many others that have been following me in the course community or other teachers that I've been with, like Muji and now Rupert. I just have a venue that allows this expression to be able to be shared. And then something happened to me, I don't know, maybe about 8 years ago when I first had my experience with awareness, where I realized that I was that thing that was always aware before I ever met Muji and before I met Rupert. All of a sudden, I realized that awareness was my experience all the time, and I didn't quite understand it. I didn't understand how this, what this experience was all about. But I had this intuitive knowing that awareness was important. And then later on, after I met Muji, I realized that awareness was everything. And then when I met Rupert, I realized, oh my God, actually, I found Rupert as I was looking up a talk that Muji had somewhere in Barcelona. I think it was Barcelona. He had a talk, or he was on a panel where Rupert and Francis Lucille were both guests on this platform. And when I watched Muji, and then I thought, well, I'm going to see what these other guys have to say. And when I came across Rupert, I went, oh my God, this guy's he's speaking exactly what my experience is, and I didn't really know what the experience was. So I am grateful to have someone with your insight, with Jenny Beal's insight, David Spector, Andrea, Kimberly, all of the beings that are so, and William, and all the beings that are so proud, so profoundly part of this family that has gathered around Rupert's book. I am grateful for each and every one of you, and I don't feel that I know more or I'm like the teacher. I'm just the guy who knows how to put it on the internet and offer it to the world. And I think we have a couple of comments here I want to answer. Andrea, David says for some, no, I answered what David Spector said. Andrea said he always uses the word knowing as the same as well. Yeah. And Jenny Beal said all experience is a coloring of consciousness. There is not good experience or good thoughts and bad ones. Yeah, it's a non-duality. It's totally non-duality in all experience, and that's why I love chapter the chapter we're going to the fourth of the four that Rupert talks about. It's chapter 9, the outward facing path. The outward facing path is the one that I was completely unaware of until Rupert introduced it to me, because I was always going with the neti. I was going with the not this, not that, and and feeling like awareness was I guess separate from the neti, and Rupert has brought me into a better understanding of how the outward facing path is but it's an expression, a refraction, a modulation of the presence of awareness, or the beingness of awareness. And that's a beautiful experience, because this is the one that I feel that you describe mostly, Annika, because you have this visceral experience of knowing the self as awareness, while the coloring of the finite experience is occurring as an arising. That's what I hear coming from you.
Well, it is unfolding, as I said. I don't want to claim that I've seen it all whatsoever. No, it's this process of the outward facing, which there is no outward. That's the beauty. When we I mean, Andrea says awareness is aware of the experience without becoming what is experiencing. And it's true that when we ask awareness, we ask ourselves about an experience, it sees nothing. really, it only is aware being. It does not see a body. It does not see death. It does not see a thought. It only sees itself because it is all itself.
Yes.
But I'm discovering that, and that only happens through seeing into it by I'm asking the one that knows, which is myself. So you could say I'm asking the one that knows itself. So when I go into the body or a thought or whatsoever, I sense what I really am while doing that. And then I ask questions. I mean, Byron Katie asks them too. She says, that is the sky. Is that true? You have accepted it. I mean, we have given the sky the name sky, so we have accepted that. But is it true? You have not gone inside and asked the one that knows.
Yes.
And that is the outward facing path. I always thought that once I would see I am everything, that trees would be transparent and people would be transparent and whatsoever, and they would be holographic images and whatsoever. But it's not like that. But it's seeing that it's all made out of awareness. And funny enough, you could call that transparent. It's not as solid as I thought it was.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, it's my exploration in that area is starting to deepen, and that's up to life. That's
Yes.
up to
Yes.
how this unfolds, so to say. And if I'm not expressing it as well as you English people would do, I'm Dutch, so I'm trying to convey this as good as I can, and I might be using little differences in words to which one thinks that I'm meaning it differently. I want to add that too, so I'm trying.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing a job of explanation, clarity around what could be complex. I feel that Rupert has really brought it forth in a way that we can all understand, which is why I was attracted to his teaching. And also, if you know Rupert, he's so precise on making sure that you're hearing what he's saying, that he goes into quite a generous detail of explaining the content of his of dialogue, the content of his pointing and your own. Just he wants us. He wants the ones that have been drawn to him to have a direct experience, not just believe it because he said it or wrote it. He, as you have described earlier, he brings you into an understanding so that you have the experience for yourself.
And that's what I appreciate him for, because it doesn't make me dependent. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to sit at his feet and wait for grace to descend on me. It's just meticulously precise.
Yeah.
And no matter the question, he always brings us back to the clarity and our own experience. Yeah.
Thank you. David Spector said, sometimes we spend a lot of time exploring, searching, and experiencing. We miss the whole point. It takes just a few seconds to recognize being aware. I know. It's you know what, David, it's crazy that it's so easy. It's crazy because I've stood up and with a diagram, a board, uh, talking about the mind and talking about awareness, talking about time and space, using the horizontal and the vertical, and trying to get people to realize that awareness is everything, that awareness is everything arises from awareness. And most people just, I don't want to say that. I want to correct that. A lot of people just can't see awareness because they're not being still enough to realize that they are awareness. And so they're looking for an objective experience instead of a deep within knowing experience. That I don't think you can miss it if you answer that one question: what is it that is aware of the experience? And you contemplate that one question. I don't think you can miss it. But often I'll try to lead people to the understanding of awareness, and they can't see it. Different teachers appeal to different people. Yes, this is natural. I have a bunch of teachers. I probably have 6 that are current. And then Vivian says, I value the family community so much at Rupert's retreats. I know. So just a great, great time. I've been to the retreat. He says it's not a retreat though. I think he calls it a he corrected me. He says it's not a retreat. I forget what he called it. But I've been to the one in Burlingame, and then the one in Garrison, and both of them are just beautiful, beautiful families. And there's a lot of I met a lot of Dutch people out there at the one in California. Are you aware of that? There's a big Dutch community out there, Annika.
I didn't know.
Yes.
No,
yes.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
no.
a lot of people that used to be with Osho are out there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And David said the easy and effortless recognition of awareness is a first awakening. It is followed by more as we fall in love with it. Yes, I know. I agree. Yeah. So the other thing that I was just really loving this week in this chapter 5 is it's at the top of page 49. Rupert says at the top of the page, he says, the knowledge of our own being, and this is what we're talking about, the experience that shines in the mind as the knowledge I am, this is also what you were talking about, Annika, is the same in all people. None has privileged access to it. And for this reason, it is the only knowledge about which it is not possible to disagree. It is absolutely true under all states, circumstances, and conditions. If we find ourselves disagreeing about the nature of our essential being, then we are mistaking ourselves for an object. And that's what I call local awareness. It is only possible to disagree about something that has objective qualities. That's amazing. That's just like that. And then he goes on to talk about Ramana Maharshi and Hitler were both to refer, if Ramana Maharshi and Hitler were both to refer to their essential feeling of being, they would both refer to the identical experience. And that means that nobody's higher or lower. That means, and that's why, that's the other thing, like you, I love about Rupert, is that he's accessible. He's humble. He's not wanting you to kiss his feet or bow down to his understanding because he's got some kind of special gift. He is describing here that all of us have the same gift. We all have the same equal access to the experience of knowing the self.
Yeah, he says, everybody says I, and everybody knows I am. We share that I, that is our shared being, the I that is aware of awareness, aware of being aware.
Yes.
So when you say I or I say I, it's the same I, and that's a very beautiful, not idea, but a very beautiful thing. It's not a thing either. I don't know how to express that in English, but that's beautiful.
Yes.
So when Hitler says I or Ramana says I, it's the same I they refer to, the I that is. And with Rupert, he calls it's a meeting of friends and that's what it is. You know, he is an I, and we are I, and we're all referring to that I, and he makes that so clear. So when you sit together or like a gathering like this, that's our shared ground. That's what we really are. And I think that is what Jesus meant when he said, when there's two or more gathered in my name, I will be there. And
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Well, I
Beautiful.
came across this this great I want to say statement in the Course in Miracles that says, when two minds agree in truth, you you actually are recognizing that it has the power and the strength of the will of God because it's the same. So when two people gather in truth and have agreement in truth, the Course says that you can't agree in perception, but when two minds agree in truth, you are actively engaging the will of God, which is the same as your will, as the will of the two.
Yes.
D. Lynn says, you both have already addressed this, but I am still at the stage, in my experience, awareness is always aware of itself as this particular alive, breathing body mind, never a dead one. And so okay, David Spector wrote, D, yes, at first the identification with the body may continue, even as we are aware of being aware. Yes, yes. Until, I mean, if you go into that neti experience, and that's why Rupert describes, I feel just hang in there and just keep an open mind, D, because you're really evolving into the understanding that we've all gone through, where we first see glimpses. And it's like Rupert describes it as, first you see, like a patch of blue and a lot of clouds. And then pretty soon you realize it's not the clouds. The clouds have been veiling the clarity of the truth of experience, of your experiencing yourself as presence, as awareness, as the I am. And that becomes clearer and clearer as you allow yourself to have an open mind. And this is where the purification also comes in. This is where inquiry is so valuable, so helpful in removing the obstacles to the awareness of awareness. And those obstacles can be judgment, blame, shame, guilt. All of these things are veils that keep us from the understanding of the presence of truth and the self that we are. And great questions. I'll probably send you an email. I will send you an email, Dee, and I'm sure if you go to the Facebook group, someone will answer your questions there. Jenny has been, she's like the librarian of this book club because she just brings forth these awesome videos of Rupert pointing directly to the question or the point that was made here in our live book club. And so check out the Facebook group. I'll send you an email if anyone else has something that you want to add for Dee. I love the question. And Annika, thank you for being our guest today. And I would hope that you will come back and we'll try the technology so everyone can see your beautiful Dutch face.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm happy too. And I think it's wonderful and, to meet each other like this.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to come back. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Well, this concludes our book club study for the day, you guys. Next week is the self-inquiry and self-remembering, chapter 6, and our guest will be Andrea Frazee. I look forward to having Andrea on the show and all of you back with us again next week. Until then, just get into chapter 6 and check it out. Arthur Gay, I'd love to have you on the call, on the video call sometime. So reach out to me for that. Okay. I love you all. Bless you and namaste.
Bye bye. Love you.
Bye bye. Love you all. Bye bye.